a more astute commentator than I can't even remember his name now, Van Jones, would have picked up that the unity at the RNC is sort of papering over the real issues that they have regarding abortion. And part of this is because when they pulled the abortion ban out of the Republican platform for the first time in 40 years, one of the members of the platform committee, Tony Perkins, who's the head of the Family Research Council, longtime right-wing religious leader, said this is just a campaign document. Here's Speaker Johnson asked by Politico's Rachel Blade what that means, that they pulled it out of the platform. Is there so does that mean you're okay with blue states allowing unfettered access to abortion? Because if you're not for a national ban, then you are for states deciding what they're going to do. That means both red states and blue states.
So with the exception of late-term abortion, which the platform, from my understanding, does very, very much call out explicitly, this new position we're hearing from the Republican Party on the issue is, leave it to the states, let them decide how to handle. I know you just said you're comfortable where the party is right now, but doesn't that position effectively mean that the party's okay with blue states deciding to give wide access to abortion?
No, I don't think that's what that means at all. I think that's
leave it to the states.
No, I think it's a recognition of the reality of the politics of the country. I mean, the states are handling it, and that, I was one of the lawyers who went into the courts for decades and argued that Roe was an egregiously unconstitutional decision, and part of the argument was because 9 unelected judges pulled the authority away from the states who were legislating on the issue before they evoked Roe and made it a claim there's a constitutional right in the federal constitution, which there's not. That's been clarified now. The situation goes back to the people through their duly, elected representatives, and that's the way the process works. No.
So how about answering the question instead of retelling what was the premise of my question and doing it in a significantly more obtuse and longer way?
I like the framing of Supreme Court decisions taking authority away from the states. I mean, sure, but it's a Supreme Court. It's there to make determinations about laws. It's so disingenuous. Also, they're going to try to do a federal abortion ban 100% if Trump gets into office.
I mean, he's made it clear there.
Yeah, floated it. Yeah. And if Trump wins, based on the margins that we have, the map's more favorable for Republicans in the Senate this year. And the House margins are very slim, and the Republicans do have the House. So there's a real distinct possibility, specifically, I think, if Biden stays in the race, that Trump gets all chambers. And that's where we could actually really see a federal abortion ban.
The big, there was a quote I read, I think from an unnamed Democratic senator saying, there is a big, big difference between a 51 or 50 Republican majority in the Senate, including the vice president, and a 54 one. He said if it's a 54 one, you're not going to believe who's going to be staffing this administration.
Oh yeah. And
we see this in the context of the Supreme Court too. The difference between a 5-4 and a 6-3 court is massive, because you can always afford to lose somebody, and because you can afford to lose one of those 6 conservative justices, people don't have to, and by people I mean the other 5 justices or whoever's writing the opinion doesn't have to bend to the will of that one holdout, because they can afford to lose one. And the justices don't feel like they are the fulcrum in the same way, because there's always somebody else who would have made the majority. I can't remember what it was, but it was when I was a kid, there was some after school special, and they were, I think they were, it was on the Declaration of Independence, I think it was. And the way there was one holdout, I can't remember who it was now, on signing the Declaration of Independence. I want to say they were from from Pennsylvania, but I can't remember. And I don't even know if this was historically accurate. It was just sort of like hyped up a little bit. But they all surrounded this guy and said, "Do you want to be the one who stops us from declaring independence?" And that's why Joe Manchin always needed Kristen Sinema. Mm-hmm. It's really scary to be the only person on that island. But if there's two of you, and that's the same dynamic. I mean, that's one of the big. That's why you're hearing from all these electeds about their fear about Joe Biden, is that there's a lot of them who could lose their jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Some news from Peter Stern. Muslim Socialist Assemblyman member Zohan Mamdani is preparing to announce a primary challenge to NYC Mayor Eric Adams, who is up for re-election next year. So that sounds like a great selection.
Well, it's also Brad Lander is also going to be running. Is that official? Or
I don't
just
think that's official.
rumored?
But yeah, just rumored that he's running. Eleanor Myrie, the state senator, I think is in the race, and I guess now Mamdani maybe is announcing.
I will take Mamdani over Zelnor Myrie.
Mamdani's father, Mahmoud Mamdani, is also very well respected and revered academic.
Nice. Well, we do have ranked choice voting, and so that could be helpful too, right? You know.
Hopefully it's more helpful than it was last time.
Well, there can be a coalition earlier
Coalition?
on. I'm tired.
I
dude.
know it's been.
I'm staying in the race.
God, he's never sounded older than in that clip.
Closer, but no.
That's also Biden. Isn't that
Really?
amazing?
God, people
It's
were playing a
wild.
clip.
Those old
Have you
clips are
seen the clip
crazy.
of him from 3.5 years ago?
Yep.
Different person.
He would win.
He would win.
Oh, yeah.
He would
if
win.
that guy was still here, he'd win.
That's the point. It's the age. There's nothing you can do to change it. There's nothing you can do to change it. You exist within the context of all that has been and that came before you, and that is the passage of time. That's a part of the context.
Oh, are there any results from your to share for your all's TikTok experiment?
Pretty good. Not as sort of huge as I would have hoped for from the shares, but if people want to give it a share, it does help the algorithm a little bit to share the TikTok feed.
Juice Manji. Sam, I would like to tell you about what my mother-in-law's libertarian boyfriend thinks about building codes. I mentioned that the bathroom in my garage was not permitted when I bought my house. The libertarian boyfriend started complaining about building codes, and I knew it was going to get good, so I asked him what he thinks should happen if a structure that I built in my yard collapses and kills my neighbor. His solution was that I should be an indentured servant to my neighbor's family forever. So my mother-in-law's libertarian boyfriend thinks slavery is better and more practical than building codes.
Oh my God. Free market decided.
Yeah, and then we have to have a whole police force to capture
Well, exactly.
escaped indentured people.
No, people will, it's the honor code.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
We're not going to have a monopoly of force. That family's police department versus my police department to be the indentured servant will meet on a battlefield. And either the one that comes across or a third-party agency that we both pay will determine like the outcome of, let's say, a debate that they have or a softball game or something like
What's
that.
always interested me about those arguments, and I feel like Walter Block always made this argument with you, Sam, about sort of like the local courts idea that like every jurisdiction would have sort of a court or something.
No, not every jurisdiction. He'd have his court.
It's what I'm right.
I'd have my court.
Right.
But of course, then you'd need a third court to adjudicate between those two courts.
And my question is with that is always like, doesn't that lead to somewhat what more you would call like bureaucracy in a way? Like, isn't it seems
Bureaucracy?
Like, yeah, like that, like it's
100%, but it would all be private bureaucracy.
Oh, okay. So
all these
privatization.
things, so you'd get like a Moody's rating agency.
Right.
Now we know
They
how
did such a
well
good
that
job.
worked out
They're
during the
experts.
financial crisis.
And they had no weird incentives either with like, the banks coming to them, right?
At the end of the day, every libertarian ideology comes down to who has the most money wins. Period. They'll go out, they'll hire their paramilitary, and the one that has the most money. Now, I guess there's a little wiggle room in terms of like, if you have access to a special breed of warrior who is also, somehow doesn't subscribe to a libertarian ideology and doesn't want money, just does it for honor. That's the other thing. We need
A champion.
we need samurai fighters who can be enlisted where honor is greater than reward in terms of money.
The computer outage this morning, people will focus on Windows because Microsoft, screw them. But Evgeny Morozov, who's a great writer on these things, he said today is a good day to remember that for almost a decade now, Microsoft has spearheaded a quote digital Geneva Convention that would transfer more power over cybersecurity from states to companies. And he has an article from 2017 in the Guardian called "Why Do We Need Accidental Heroes to Deal with Global Cyber Attacks?" But it's the Cloudflare. Like we have these private companies, and they get on, and the reporter, maybe I can find this, but she's like, "Why wasn't there any redundancy?" It's like, we didn't want to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah. Job number one is profit. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.